Yes, like that. That's better. Oh, kind of dark there. What do I need to do? Waha! Hello, hello. Ooh, it's hot today. Hey, is it Monday? Look at this. My hair is so long. Can I put it behind my ears? Oh my god, I can. My hair is so long. I can put it behind my ears. My hair is so long. I can put it behind my ears. And I'm totally going to because it looks awesome. Ah, look at that. Yeah, we'll do that. That's like craziness. Wait. Hair in face. Okay, we'll try that one. Yeah. That looks good. Okay, we'll do that. Hi! Ooh. Yes, it's Alison Arngrim in the living room still, again. It's Monday. It's Monday. It's so Monday. What day is Monday? I got the fans on now. Monday. Got my volume up. Monday. Oh, wait. Let me see. Make sure. Hang on one second. I have to check a thing. Can you hear me? You guys can hear me, right? You can hear me? You hear me? I'm just making sure. I'm gonna make sure you all can. Can you all hear me? Because because you know this thing. Hang on, I gotta do a thing. That was weird. There, I feel better now. Can you hear me now? I just was like worried. It was all still up, connected to my Bluetooth and whatnot, and I went, oh no. So buffering, looks good. Wait, freezing, not buffering. Okay, wait, there we go. Mine says it's okay, and I should be seeing you guys. There. Oh, yeah, okay, good. It was telling me that it was all just going like to my Bluetooth, which is in my purse at the other side of the room. And I'm like, no, that was supposed to be disconnected. But there, it looks fine now. So yes, I'm sticking my hair behind my ears because I can't believe how long it is, and it's kind of fabulous, and I haven't done that in ages, and it's so much fun to be able to do that. So okay. Hi, so August 30, it's the last day of August. It's almost September. But no, wait, I'm like, yay, I like fall. Also, that might possibly cool off. I'm told this week will be better. This, because it was like 100 in this and 100 in that. And I felt like Laura on the way home in the wagon going to Missouri where it was 109. I was feeling like that. I was going to hurt someone. So now it's 80 something, 80 this, 90 that. But it's going to be stupid again, like 105 on Saturday. But then it stops. It's going to be like, well, not fall, but like normal people summer. Not surface of the sun summer. It's going to be like good. So I'm like, yay, it's going to cool off. And I like September. You know what I like even better September? October. I do. So today is the 31st. So I'm like, woohoo, August 31st. It is many things. It is National South Carolina Day. Oh, I like South Carolina. Anybody in South Carolina? Hi, it is your day. It is National Matchmaker Day. I don't know. Does that work? Does that ever work? I've introduced people. I have tried to matchmake. I've introduced people. It's gone disastrously. Just a couple of people like dated for a while. But mostly it was a train wreck. And anyone who's ever tried to fix me up with anyone, it was like, yeah, no. It's just generally matchmaking. Some people are really good at it. They know I know people say, oh no, I've introduced like 5-6 couples. They all got married, live happily ever after. I'm like, kidding me. Some people can do it. It's like a gift. Generally. So Matchmaker's Day. So for those of you who are good at it, woohoo. Someone said, oh, it was the anniversary, yes, of Princess Diana's death. I took that very hard because when she was still Lady Di and first became famous, a lot of people made comparisons. Let's just say, it's the blue eyes, the nose, the hair. It was, yes, and we had like totally the same haircut in the 80s. It was like really scary, and yeah, so I identified with her very strongly in her work and age, and I liked her. She seemed, she did nice things, so I felt that was very, very sad. It's the anniversary of her death. It's August 3rd. I think it's what would have been my parents' wedding anniversary. I think my parents were married on August 31st. I know it was in August. Keep track of these things. It is National Diet... I can't even say this, let alone... No. Wait, I've heard of this, but I don't remember what it is. Diatomaceous Earth Day. Does someone know what that is? D-I-A-T-O-M-A-C-E-O-U-S. Diatomaceous? diatomaceous Earth Day. Somebody knows what that is, right? Is that like a thing? Is it a thing you put on your skin? I don't even remember what the heck it is. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Sedimentary rock that is a filter of liquids, like a swimming pool filter. Thank you. Thank you. It's a filter thing. Yes. Well, it has a day. Diatomaceous. Thank you. It is a type of rock. And apparently it's, you throw it in your chicken coop and you can put it in your swimming pool filter. It's like crushed up little tiny shells, powered, there you go. Moses. Oh, yes. Awesome. Oh, it's good for killing bugs. Good. It's a multi-purpose thing. It does everything. Well, it has its own day. It has its own day. It's today. Who knew? It is also marvelously, it is trail mix day. Now, I'd already know I poured my goldfish, but it is trail mix day. And I have trail mix. I have two kinds. It's from Trader Joe's. And this is the kind, I can't remember what it's called. This is the one, this is very nice, with cashews. This one, I'm going to rip this thing open here. Maybe I can rip this open. There we go. No, wait, hold on. Terrible it open. Terror. Hulk smash. There we go. This is the one that has almonds and cashews are like my favorite. Cashews and, there's like raisins, but there's this cranberry, like craisins, like dried cranberries. So it's like almonds, cashews, and dried cranberries and raisins. This one is the antioxidant, something or other. Hi, Canada. This has a bunch of cool stuff. This one has, again, almonds, because they're in everything. It has walnuts in it. More of them craisin guys. And a whole mess of pumpkin seeds, which are supposed to be very, 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 very good for you. I don't know, it tastes good. So yes, I'm going to mix them. So now I have very fancy, Trader Joe's trail mix. But yeah, Trader Joe's has like 8 different kinds of trail mix, with some with the candy in them, some with the chocolate chips, or the vanilla yogurty chips, or Reese's Pieces M&Ms. I go all super earthy, crunchy, healthy, just get the nuts and the fruit ones. But there's one with like chunks of dried pineapple I've gotten a couple times, I admit. It's very warm. I have to say, the fancy new refrigerator, I got down, I actually had to change the temperature, because remember I said it wasn't cooling off, so I set it for cold. It's so cold. I had to slightly adjust it to like recommended temperature because things were starting to freeze. So I went, okay, it's cooled off. It's definitely cold. I really do, it's got an ice maker water thing in the door. And I had one of those once a long time ago. I haven't had one of those in years. I had one, and I've used them, and my in-laws have one. This thing's great. I admit it is great. And it's got crushed or cubed, and it's rather hot here, and having instantaneous crushed ice, yeah, it's pretty good. So I'm thinking I did get my money's worth on that one. We got our nickel's worth on that fridge. So that's always a good thing. All right. So, Linda Sue Park and her Prairie Lotus. Now, Prairie Lotus, I've been flipping ahead. We are jamming through this book. It's really easy to read. It's got a nice flow. She's very good. She knows what she's doing. She got that Laura Ingalls kind of thing going on. And little Hannah and her pa. We're starting to like her pa. Her pa was very severe. Very severe. But he'd been through a lot. His wife had died. He'd been persecuted for marrying this Chinese woman. He had to protect his poor daughter, who was half Chinese, who people were picking on just because she was half Chinese. They had to move all the time. So he was in a bad mood, like, all the time. So he was very severe, and always telling her, no, Hannah, it's too dangerous. But he chilled out, and she did it. She went to school, and he was very smart, though. He's no dummy. He picked a town where he knew the guy who was the justice of the peace, and therefore the law in town. He was friends with the law in town, and the guy was on the school board, so Hannah got to go to school. it was a complete nightmare, and half the students walked out. Some walked out the first day. Most of the students left, refused to go to school. People picked on her. It was the boy who was cute, who liked her, was almost going to be her boyfriend. His father was a complete evil, horrible person, and he had to leave school. So, so she made it through, but then the teacher finally said, you know, you're actually ahead of all the other students. Would you like to graduate? Because we could give you a test right now, and you could graduate. And she did. But she got, like, super high score, so she wasn't even faking. So she has her diploma, and her father initially was like, no, it's too hard, don't do this whole diploma thing, it's the problems. It's like, this is great, you gotta play. He's, like, 100% behind her now. He's building a shop. He's letting her be the architect. She wants to be a dressmaker. He's letting her design the whole store. She goes, well, I kind of drew this sketch I thought might be a nice sewing room, storage area. And he looks at it and turns to the workman and goes, do what she says. She said, I think you need a bigger door. There's women with hoop skirts. He goes, make it a double door. He's like, you're designing it. He's letting his 14-year-old daughter do the blueprints and design the entire store. And she's right. And he knows it. So it's like, we're liking that. And he started to get a little nicer and smile. Now he's talking about having a grand opening party for the store and letting her run it. And how, you know, what Mama would have liked. And even getting teary-eyed about Mama. So he's coming around. He's chilling. Which Hannah's like, what? Is she 14? She's like 15, maybe. But yeah, he's coming around, and he got a little sentimental, so he's starting to, like, he's been repressing his emotions, the poor man, and he's letting it a little bit. So things are looking up. On the other hand, some of the people in the town are kind of awful. They're kind of awful. She's found all the nice ones, so it's going well, but there's some, whoo boy, there's some bad people. And I did flip ahead to go, I hope nothing terrible happens. Yeah, something nearly very, very terrible happens. Remember how in Laura Ingalls' books, she talks about the railroad men, and like, don't go down to the railroad camp. And in Prairie Girl, her real autobiography, where she puts in like the real stories behind the stories, the ones she couldn't put in the children's books. Yeah, there was like a guy at the hotel. There was like some weird cousin. There was apparently an incident in Laura's life where she had to pull out a knife and go, you know. So yes, there were people back then who were really unpleasant. So yes, some drunk guys do wind up harassing poor little Hannah, and things get rough. But she's Hannah, and she's clever and smart and fast. It gets exciting. But yes, Prairie. She's in the Dakota Territories. It's like Deadwood with Ian McShane. There's terrible people there. Gotta be careful. So far, she's throwing a party. And she's told her papa that she needs stuff for the party. And he's like, no, we can't have lemonade. We're in South Dakota. Do you know how much lemons cost? So she's like, okay, we'll make the ginger water thing. We'll make this. But she's giving it, he's like, give me a list. I'm doing it. So far, so good. They're being very bold. They're going to throw a party and have the Chinese girl in charge. Risky, but they're doing it. Okay. This bonnet does match. There are purple flowers. There are purple flowers that match in this bonnet. Just saying. The next week, Hannah and Papa carried the last few boxes from the rented house into the store building. It was the two of them now. With the heavy work done, Papa no longer needed Charlie Hatt's help. The shop's second floor had been divided into 2 bedrooms. On the landing at the top of the stairs, there was space for 2 chairs, with a small round table between them. Not big enough to be called a parlor, it would still be a nice place to sit and read during spring and fall. A lamp stood on the table. Upstairs, 2 bedrooms, a little reading area. It's lovely. There was a bedroom on either side of the landing. Hannah's room was at the back of the house, Papa's at the front. She'd already put up a curtain over Papa's window. Now she did the same for hers. Her bedroom held very little. A bedstead, a shelf along one wall, hooks for hanging clothes. Mama's old plaid shawl was draped at the foot of the bed. The books Miss Lorna had given her were lined up on a shelf. And this was normal then. Well, like Laura, people didn't have a lot of clothes. Now, of course, Laura and later in the books by Little Town on the Prairie had like a bunch of clothes. But people, they didn't do closets. They would do like armoires, but that was very considered fancy. But generally, they had hooks. And most of your clothes, you just hung them on a hook. And if they were fancy clothes, you might have a hanger, and then that would go in the hook. So it was generally you put your clothes up on the wall, and of course they'd air out. But then fancy people had armoires. closets, and then they started building built-in closets, and that was like like a big exciting new innovation. So right now she's hanging her stuff on hooks like regular folk. She took a long look around. Her room, not a rented place, not the wagon, the wagon a lot, but a room in a house they owned. They owned it. He bought that. Hannah, Papa was calling from the front of the shop. She hurried down the stairs and out the door to the board sidewalk where he was folding the stepladder. He had just put up the shop's new sign. It hung from an iron bar that stuck out over the door and could be read by those walking or riding down the street. On a dark green background, the white lettering was identical on both sides. It was elegant, but still easy to read. Edmund's Dress Goods, and had a little flower. It's a lotus. He put a lotus on the sign like her mama would have put a lotus. It's sweet. It's very nice. Hannah gasped in delight at the sight of a 5-petaled lotus outlined in gilt paint. Gold. He put a gold lotus on their sign. Papa's getting cool, just say. Papa had gotten rid of so many of Mama's things when she died. And he had a good excuse. They had been preparing to travel in the wagon. But since then, Hannah had missed some of those things. The blue and white bowl that had held oranges. The enameled vase adorned with birds and flowers. The carved wooden chopsticks. At times she felt as though he had done his best to erase Mama's presence from their lives. He was very upset. Guys will sometimes do that. Like he just, didn't want to be reminded. Now she realized that she had been unfair in that thought. He was keeping Mama's lotus, putting it right out in front on the sign. See, no, he's been hurt. This guy's really, been hurting. He's been holding it in. And now it looks like they might be safe. Everything's chilled out. She actually went to public school with other kids and graduated. So, the worst is over for that. And he's bought a place, and they let him buy it, and they were letting him open a shop, and the townspeople aren't burning it down, and it seems like life is going really well. So he's chilling out. He's like, all right, this is probably as good as it's going to get. And he's painting the gold lotus on the side. Lovely, lovely. It's coming around. The sign was bordered in gilt. It had been stenciled and painted by Mr. Clyde at the newspaper office. Papa told her that he had applied 3 coats of varnish to protect it from the weather. Hannah walked backwards a few steps to view the sign from farther away. She couldn't stop smiling. It looks nice, Papa, she said. He smiled back at her. Hope the whole town thinks the same, he said. Okay, that's maybe the second time this guy has smiled in this time. We're all the way up to page 141, and I think it's the second time the poor guy has smiled, so it's happy. Good. Next, they looked at the window display. The inside of the front window was covered with sheets of brown packing paper. Papa would take the paper down on the morning of the opening. Hannah was in charge of organizing the display. She had tacked swags of fabric to the ceiling of the window well, a robin's egg blue lawn, alternating with diaphanous puffs of darker blue chiffon. Well, it's rather fancy. The effect was that of a soft, romantic sky. Beneath the swags, a simple rack made of lath and dowel rods stood in the middle of the deep sill. It had been painted sage green to match the shop's exterior. This is a very fancy little store, just saying. She had chosen 3 bolts of fabric, the wine-colored watered silk, a cheerful calico in blue and pink and cream plaid, a fawn-colored chalice strewn with feathery pattern. She unrolled a few yards from each bolt and draped the loose fabric over the dowels, leaving the bolts themselves out of sight behind the rack. Then she tied ribbon around the swaths of the fabric, each of which looked like a gathered skirt flowing down from the waist created by the ribbon. Oh, yeah. Now, she is like the marketing director. She knows how to do store window display. She can design the whole shop. She's like, yeah. And there you go. They were talking about how he said, we're not buying that expensive fabric. And she put in the silk because she knew that it would just make people come in to look at it. But she put the calico next to it that they're probably really going to buy. Very clever. Very clever. Lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Well, I'm just like, ooh, pretty. So she's going to wait a minute. One of the things behind the window. I'm so excited about this. I lost my place. I got excited. Hannah had always made it a point to examine every tailor and dressmaker shop she came across. She had seen a rack like this one in a shop in San Francisco. Charlie Hart had made it to her design. She's been studying all the shops. I like it, Papa said. Thank you, Papa. But I'm thinking it's still not quite right. So, did you just invoke Rhoda Morgenstern? Yes, like Rhoda on TV. She did the shop windows. That's still, I love this. Well, he looked again at the display. That brown packing paper's kind of ugly. Oh, Papa, she said, rolling her eyes at his teasing. He grinned. Oh, he smiled again. And she felt something like a warm bubble expanding in her heart. There had been so few smiles between them since Mama's death, and today they had already exchanged too. See? After dinner, I'd like to take the wagon and go out of town a ways, Hannah said. I'm going to dig up some prairie rose bushes and put them in the window well, so that will make it look nice, and there'll be refreshments. But can you think of anything else we could do to make the opening really special? His habitual frown returned immediately. You always want too much, he said. I just think we should do something different. The shop in Los Angeles. Did you and Mama ever, I remember the parties, but I don't remember much about them. Papa snapped his fingers. You put me in mind of something, he said, his eyes bright once again. A raffle. Sometimes it takes money to make money. The prizes will cost us some, but a raffle will bring in people who might not come otherwise. Raffle. He explained how it would work. There would be a box on the counter where people could put their visiting cards as they entered the shop. When the box was full of cards, Papa would draw one at random. The person whose name was on the card would win a prize. We'll have the drawing mid-morning, maybe around 10 or so, before folks leave to go home for their dinners. Let's have, he paused for a moment, 3 winners, maybe. Your Mama loved a raffle. She always wanted us to put up more prizes. I remember once I had to talk her down from 9. That sounded so like Mama. How about 5, Hannah suggested. 3 small prizes, 1 medium and a grand prize. 5's good. Can I choose the prizes, Papa? Suits me. Just show me what you pick out. I don't want you losing your head and giving away the whole shop. Hannah examined the display counter, shelves, and drawers. Then she looked at every cupboard and cabinet in the storeroom and made her choices. A packet of 12 needles in various sizes. Oh, that's quite handy, A string of assorted buttons. A cheerful posy of colored ribbons. Those would be the small prizes. Oh, but mind you, in the 1800s, those are good prizes. Very useful things. The medium prize would be a length of lace, enough to make a pair of cuffs and a matching collar, which she rolled and tied with a pretty silk flower. For the grand prize, she inspected their stock of sewing baskets and picked a small one lined in bright striped calico. The underside of its lid was padded and tufted to serve as a pincushion. She filled the basket with all kinds of notions, a paper of pins, a packet of needles, several spools of thread, a pair of embroidery scissors, dressmaker's chalk, a cloth tape measure, a German silver thimble. Then she held it up admiringly. It was something she herself would like to win. I love stuff like that. I have a sewing kit. I have a sewing basket, and it's got a thing with zippers. It's more cloth than plastic, but it's got an upper compartment and a lower compartment and little... I guess I would go cuckoo for that sewing basket. And can you imagine Charlotte Stewart would go bananas for such a thing? Oh. She showed the prizes to Papa, who gave his approval. I've had another idea, she said, and hurried on before he could say anything. Remember how Mama always used to invite the ladies to the shop for those parties? I think we should do the same here. The opposite. We should have something for the men. What are men going to want in a dress shop? She hadn't thought that far. Maybe a gift for their wives or someone else in the family. He waved his hand dismissively. The only thing men will want is for their women folk not to spend too much money in here. Oh, she clapped in delight. Papa, that's it. But we do a separate drawing for the men, and their prize is a discount. How about 30% less on whatever their wife buys at the opening? Man, she is smart. She's way, like, smart. This is, like, crazy smart. Papa raised his eyebrows. She could tell he was surprised, and she detected grudging admiration in his eyes. Make up a nice little card as a discount token, he said, but 20%, not 30. He headed for the door. I'm going to paint up a quick sign to stand on the sidewalk announcing the raffle. That should bring folks in. She's absolutely right, though. As he said, what the guys want is not to spend too much money. You know, their wives are going to go crazy with all this stuff. But if there's a raffle for 20% off, she's right. She's right. She is. She's the architect. So she's a marketing genius. I love her already. Now Hannah was even more excited about. I'm like, wow. I'm like tearing through this book. I can't believe myself. Okay, it looks like this had a happy ending. I'm like peeking ahead, like, oh yes, everything works out okay. Then there's like author's note. That's a thing. Okay. There's only 26 chapters, and I'm on 16. Just saying. Okay. With their steady, dependable roan, Chester, that's that nice little horsey there, hitched to the wagon, Hannah headed south out of town, traveling the road on which they'd come into LaForge weeks earlier. I hope that's not too dangerous. All right. During the trip from California, Papa had taught her to drive the wagon and shoot a rifle. He saw those skills as practical necessities for the long journey. She privately regarded them as two more elements in support of her future independence. See, she's like a Laura. She can drive horses. A lot of the ladies didn't do that. Remember, Laura shocked the whole town driving Almanza's horses. She saw patches of prairie roses by the road, but decided to drive on for a little while longer. It was a beautiful afternoon, the air warm but not heavy. No one else was out driving. Chester's hooves beat a steady rhythm that she found soothing. It feels nice, being outdoors, on my own. The sun climbed higher in the sky. She guessed that she had been gone about an hour. To her left, the land dipped and rolled. She saw a vast expanse of pink up ahead and pulled Chester over to the side of the road. Sweeps and swaths of roses ran low to the ground. Their petals, deep pink shading to cream, surrounded centers so sunny and golden that each blossom looked like a cheerful little face. She walked around breathing in their perfect scent. Light, fresh, sweet, but not cloying. Well, you see why Laura named her daughter Rose after the prairie roses. Hannah picked out a half a dozen of the smaller plants, mostly in bud rather than bloom. Because they'll bloom in the store, right? She had brought with her a shovel, a trowel, and the big tin wash tub, as well as a bucket of water. She's very thorough. Carefully, she dug up each of the bushes and moved them into the wash tub. Then she put the tub into the wagon bed. Lifting shovelfuls of soil over the side of the wagon to cover the base of each bush wasn't easy, but if she'd filled the tub with soil on the ground, she probably would not have been able to lift it up. Smart. She's so smart. She's so smart there. Okay, I'm just saying. Finally, she gave all the plants a good watering. With the last of the water in the bucket, she rinsed the dirt from her hands. I'll need something to put the rose bushes in. Lard cans, maybe, or with fabric tied around them. And with luck, all the buds will bloom just in time for the opening. See, she thinks ahead. She's like, let's get the nice ones that haven't bloomed yet. And wait, no, if I put the dirt in the bucket now, then I can't get the thing into the wagon. So put it up in the wagon and then put the dirt in the water. So smart. Very smart. Satisfied, she climbed back onto the wagon seat and took a last look at the prairie. Something to the south caught her eye. She stared hard, seeing nothing except the endless miles of rolling grasses. Oh, just my eyes playing tricks? Then she saw it again. A few people were emerging from a dip in the land, walking away from her. Black hair, no sunbonnets. Indians. While she stared, a woman at the back of the group turned to glance behind her. Hannah recognized her at once, the gray-haired elder she had encountered earlier the day before arriving in LaForge. Their eyes met. The woman looked at Hannah for a long moment. Then she made an unmistakable gesture with her chin, both acknowledging Hannah and beckoning her. Beat that one, right? Hannah walked briskly to catch up with the group. They had stopped on a stretch of prairie with a slight rise. They were definitely the same Sioux women she had met before. The gray-haired elder nodded at her. The little girls giggled, and Hannah smiled at them in recognition. The baby had changed the most, although still tied to her mother's back. She or he was much bigger now. As I say, it's been a year. They scattered along the rise, each carrying a stick. Hannah stayed with the gray-haired woman, who then spoke to her. Tokel yon he. Hannah nodded, then pointed to herself. Hannah, she said, my name is Hannah. Hannah, the woman replied. She tapped her own chest with a flat hand and said, Which-a-peewin. Which-a-peewin. Which-a-peewin? Which-a-peewin. There you go. Which-a-peewin, Hannah said, dipping her head in an awkward half bow, half curtsy. She had no idea if her gesture signified respect to the Sioux, but she hoped the woman would understand her intent. If there was one thing Mama had drilled into her from the moment she was born, it was respect for older people. Which-a-peewin knelt and fingered one of the prairie plants at her feet. A little taller than ankle height, it had hairy stems that held pale purple flowers in small, inconspicuous clusters. Which-a-peewin looked up to make sure Hannah was watching. Timsina! Oh no, it's the Timsina! Isn't that the Timsina? Is that the potatoes things? Timsina! Which-a-peewin said. Understanding flashed through Hannah's mind. Timsina! She exclaimed. The prairie turnip! That was Timsina! Which-a-peewin was showing her the live plant. Yay! So she can pick her up. Which-a-peewin stretched out all 5 fingers that indicated the plant's leaflets in groups of 5 that echoed the shape of her hand. Oh, that's how you know the plant, because of the 5 leaves. Hannah held up her own hand. Raising her chin, Which-a-peewin pursed her lips and turned her head in the direction of the low rise that stretched toward the south. Hannah saw numerous patches of the purple-flowered plants. There was no doubt in her mind now. Which-a-peewin was definitely pointing by using her lips instead of a forefinger. That's very funny. I've seen people who point with their chins, and Disneyland. Okay, this is like sterile. It's many places people say it is rude to point. To just go. It's considered rude to point, especially like at someone. But in Disneyland, seriously, I had friends who worked in Disneyland. This was a big thing. In Disneyland, if you had to point at something like, "Where are the restrooms?" They trained them not to point because it's considered rude. To take 2 fingers, sort of like a Boy Scout thing, and say, "The restrooms are over there." Wait, the restrooms are this way. And, oh yes, you can meet Goofy over there. And that was the polite way to point at something. So yes, people do think that they... Pointing with your lips sounds kind of hard, but I can see, okay, pointing with your lips. I have to try that sometime. Oh my. So she showed her the and was definitely pointing with her lips. That's wonderfully crazy. Which-a-peewin took a stick from the bag over her shoulder. Hannah saw that it was black and sharp at the tip, probably fire-tempered. Which-a-peewin began using the stick to dig into the soil at the base of the Timsina stem. The ground was hard and dry. It took some time to uproot the plant. She showed Hannah a tuber with a long taproot. Of course, it looked nothing like the braided bulbs. It was covered with black dirt. Which-a-peewin knocked some of the dirt loose, then twisted the tuber from its stem, leaving the taproot attached. She rubbed away some of the soil with her fingers, revealing a dull brown husk. Finally, she peeled the husk part way so Hannah could see the tuber's pure white interior. So, you peel them first, then dry them, then use the root to braid them together, Hannah said, making gestures. Which-a-peewin spoke again and mimed eating, bringing her hand to her mouth and then motioned toward Hannah. Oh, yes, we did eat them, Hannah replied. I like Timsina. She smacked her lips noisily. And then, yum noise. Oh, Barbara just said Charlotte Stewart worked at Disneyland. This is true. Charlotte Stewart, our dear Miss Beadle, was the first Alice in Wonderland at Disneyland. She was in the pretty blue dress with the white apron. She was so pretty. She was so pretty, and she had long blonde hair. When she was young, she had super long blonde hair and the big eyes. She was Alice, and she was the first Alice at Disneyland, and would take people around and go, yes, I'm Alice in Wonderland, right this way. Which-a-peewin spoke again and minded, oh yes, we did. Which-a-peewin smiled. She put the tuber into her sack and began to work on the next plant. Hannah wanted to help. She wondered if should return to the wagon for the shovel and trowel, but as she watched, she realized that pointed stick was perfectly suited to the work. Witch-a-Peewin dug up each turnip while causing the least amount of disturbance to the surrounding earth. Hannah thought again about that braid of Timsina she'd received. It had held at least 24 bulbs, and only now did she realize how much time and effort had gone into that gift. She got to dig them up one at a time, tie them together. When Witch-a-Peewin pulled up the next tuber, Hannah held out her hand. In gestures, she offered to twist the turnip from its stem and remove the soil. Witch-a-Peewin nodded. For a while, they worked next to each other in companionable silence. So she just, randomly, runs into these people. She'd given them soup before. They gave her a string of turnips. And then she just randomly runs in and hangs out and does some light gardening out in the middle of nowhere. I got some rose bushes dug up, and now I'm going to, harvest tubers with this little old lady. As you do. So it's kind of crazy, but the Timsina were very delicious, so maybe we would do that. I don't know, maybe they're that good. Hannah didn't know how much time had passed before she suddenly realized how strong the sun was on her back. It's probably gone 3 o'clock at least. I should be getting home. Reluctantly, she brushed off her hands and stood up from her crouch. I have to go now, she said. I'm glad we met again. She didn't know how much English Witch-a-Peewin could understand, but it didn't seem to matter. Witch-a-Peewin nodded a farewell. Hannah returned to the wagon. On the way back to town, she found herself wishing that Mama could have met Witch-a-Peewin and tried to imagine the two women together. Chester's ears framed her view of the road ahead, which softened and blurred until she blinked her eyes clear. She's crying. Oh, that's a short one today. All right, because tomorrow is chapter 17. Is that long? Yes, it could be long. And then 18. All right, I'm going to call it, because, like I said, I got to drag this out a little bit, right? Because we're just whipping along here. So this is cool. So she does go randomly gardening with, strange people, which is, odd. But, she was a sweet old lady, and she had those Timsinas, those little tubers, and they were, fabulously delicious. So another chance to find out. And here was the lady saying, here's where you get them, here's where they are, here's how you dig them up. I mean, it's like someone coming to you going, psst, I know where to get the best trail mix at Trader Joe's. Which aisle to find it on, and where to go. It's kind of handy. These are delicious. Sometimes trail mix is dry and doesn't taste that good. This is marvelous. The cashews almost chewy. Walnuts can get super dry. Nope. Downright moist. So, this is really good. And then the little, raisins, cranberry thingies, pumpkin seeds. I'm not sure. I believe, I am told, that pumpkin seeds are very, very good for you. I would have to look up why. But I think they're good for you, which is great, because I like them. So, there you are. I think almonds are supposed to be a superfood. Superfoods. When they first started talking about that, superfoods, I mean, we've always had foods that were good for you, had a lot of vitamins or antioxidants. But a few years ago, it was superfoods. I guess it's really an advertising thing. But some foods that had, massive amounts of vitamins and antioxidants. So they said, well, we're going to say these are superfoods. Encourage people to eat them. They were all my favorite things. They said, okay, these superfoods. Blueberries, dark chocolate, red wine, and garlic. And I'm like, and I never even need to eat anything else. Yes. And then yogurt and oatmeal, and I'm like, No, regular oatmeal? You couldn't have, paid me to eat oatmeal when I was a kid. No. And then I discovered that, you can get the actual whole oats, the crunchy stuff, and you don't have to boil it or soak it in milk, cook it. You can just throw it as is on top of some yogurt. And you can also get steel cut. You can get steel cut oatmeal. And if you put a little tiny bit of hot milk in that, it gets just soft enough to eat, but it's still, it's crunchy. And if you throw that on your yogurt, it's it's kind of like eating rocks, but it's delicious. So now I will, actually, my doctor's so happy I will eat oatmeal. But blueberries and garlic and dark chocolate and red wine. And if you don't drink red wine, you can get a grape juice where they've actually kept it to have the flavonoids that they have in the red wines. Like you can get that. It's special. Cranberry oatmeal cookies. She just said, ooh. Now I'm going to have to bake again. So, oh yeah, and then of course, if you have nut allergies, this would be a really bad idea. So yeah, you have to go like find the stuff that does not have the nuts you're allergic to. They make things that you can eat. My goodness. Yummers. That's so good. I feel so healthy. It's all about the flavonoids. Oh, someone's allergic to sulfites and went, oh yeah, that's nasty. Some sulfites can get you. I saw in a store this grape juice. They had both a red one and a white one. And what they had done, they had sort of concentrated it and done stuff to it like wine, so that all the flavonoids and super duper chemicals from like the grape peels and whatnot were super strong, but there was no alcohol in it. So you could totally chug this stuff and get all your like red wine, good for your heart and circulation flavonoids. There's always a way, I say. So this is a delicious hour. So much fun. So yes, we're going to continue reading For Prairie Lotus. And yeah, basically the gist of the story I'm getting about this lady, Linda Sue Park, who's very good, is she had read the Little House books as a kid. I think she says that in her author's note. Yes, she absolutely, among the most beloved of my childhood books were those written by Laura Ingalls Wilder. I read them all many times, so often that to this day, 50 years later, I still know countless phrases and passages by heart. But over the years, of course, as you know, people sort of talk about how, like, the character of Ma talked about Indians and how it was totally from the white settler perspective and everything, and the Indians kind of like, and Laura was always defending them, and Pa was, but it got rough. And it was weird. And of course, there were a lot of Chinese people on the prairie with the railroads, and they're just kind of like, not mentioned. So she kind of felt bad growing up as a Chinese girl, going, there's no, and feeling sort of bad about it. And then she thought, well, wait a minute. There would have been little Chinese girls on the prairie. They would have been there because they were Chinese people. Hey, wait a minute. And she said, what if a little girl, half Chinese, so say, who grew up in Chinatown and in San Francisco, Los Angeles, whose, family whose mother had come over with a group of missionaries. Think of all the Chinese people on the railroads and their families. She was like, wait, what if she was out there in South Dakota and liked to sew and wanted to run a dress shop and went to school, and what if there was a blonde, curly-haired girl in the school that was horrible to her? And hence we have Prairie Lotus. But it's good. I mean, anybody could have just sat down and said, okay, I'm going to write a book that's kind of like Little House on the Prairie, and I'm going to have a Chinese girl. And no. But this woman was absolutely raised on the Laura Ingalls Wilder, like, to the point of having it memorized. And so she went, what if there was a little half Chinese girl? And it totally worked. So she knows what she's doing. So it's marvelous. Now, we're coming down the home stretch on it, and I'm leaning out of her. Where am I going? No, don't fall over. Why? Because when we get done, we have things. We have, what do we got here? We have things. We did that. We have Young Pioneers, which was originally called Let the Hurricane Roar, and then became Young Pioneers, and this is Rose Wilder Lane, and we have Rose Wilder Lane's Free Land, although this looks a little thick and turgid. Maybe River will do this, but we'll totally do Young Pioneers. And then there's that going out west to San Francisco thing. We'll do that, yes. So there you go. So I am loving Prairie Lotus. I had heard vaguely of it, and it really was Bob. My husband Bob went, do you know about this Prairie Lotus book? This sounds great. And I said, yeah, I'd heard of it. And he looked at me and he went, oh, no, this looks, I think you should read this. I think you should totally read this. This sounds great. You should totally read this. And he ordered it for me. He said, I'm just ordering this, and I think you should read it. And so here we all are. Bob was totally right. This thing is awesome. So I will see you tomorrow. And remember, so many things are happening. September 24th, I'll be doing my show in the other part of the living room. In October, I'll be doing a show again. In October, I believe it's the 15th, Mr. Rich Little will be doing a show. And I helped, like they say in Shake and Bake. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. And then I'm going to be in a movie. I'm going to make it a movie. I'll be in a movie. And it's a lovely film, and I'm a terrible person in it. I'm just terrible. I'm so mean. I'm just awful person. Just how much do I love this? Yeah, I will be playing someone extraordinarily unlikable, and it'll be great. You'll love it. And don't worry, it's all rah, super sanitary set where we're going to have all the new COVID protocols on a set. So we're going to try this out. We're going to do this thing. And it's going to be awesome. And I will keep you posted on everything. And woo! And the Nellie newsletter, you can find out all this. Also stuff that's going on, because Melissa Gilbert's got that podcast. Our Laura, Melissa Gilbert, she and her husband Timothy Busfield. They have a podcast. They have a podcast, the two of them, Timothy and Melissa. And they go and they sit there and ramble on about all kinds of crazy stuff. And their latest one is they sat down and watched Little House on the Prairie and did like running commentary. And I don't think he's even seen all the shows, so it must have been bananas for him to do this. So that's just this new thing they're doing, and it's hysterical. So you can hear her podcast. Everybody's doing stuff. Charlotte's sewing. Everybody's making movies or has a book coming out or something. It's just craziness. Tomorrow is Tuesday, and Tuesday at 5, I'll be Zooming my little show, the Alison Arngrim Show interview thing with Karen Grassley, Ma, and Whitty Murphy, who is a fabulous civil rights lawyer, and the two of them are going to talk about Karen's career, but also the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, and what they've been doing to finally get that thing ratified after like nearly 100 years. So it'll be awesome. So see you tomorrow at 1:30. Wash your hands, wear your mask, take care of each other.